mean, you guys pretty much covered everything, so I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone that's here. The script means the world to me, so the fact that you're all here to help bring it to life is amazing. And let's have a good 3 days. It's going to be fun.
I've wanted to make glass bottles since the moment my grandpa told me the story of how he met my grandmother.
What did you guys do on your first date?
I went to flowers in downtown Brooklyn.
He just painted a picture for me, and the story itself had symbols and metaphors of its own that translated so well into a short film.
This is how tough it was. If I had a nickel to go to see movies, it was 6 cents. You would go up to a department house and get an empty bottle. You get a single deposit.
I used that recording of him as an outline for when I was writing the script. And as I was writing, I found myself trying to come up with a conflict, because you need a conflict in a movie. And I was having trouble finding it. It's really a fairy tale love at first sight story that they had, so I felt like I was doing them an injustice by fictionalizing conflict in their story. So I thought to myself, if this is painting a picture of the simplicity of life then, what if I contrast it with a modern day drama piece? The main thing that I didn't want this film to feel like was two stories, one about a perfect love story in the 50s and one about a failed love story in modern day. I wanted this to be two stories about a young man finding where he belongs. So whether that's Vincent with a love at first sight situation, or John, who has a little more convoluted, complex path to also finding exactly where he needs to be at the right time. So if I could pinpoint a message for this movie, it's that everything happens for a reason and it's gonna work out in the end.
Margaret?
Vincent was definitely the most specific part to cast. One of the first self-tapes that we got was Nicholas Stoser for young Vincent.
Hey, what are you doing up there, young man?
Sorry, officer.
Now what if you fall and crack your head?
What do you care?
You might land on someone I like.
Tell the family I say hello.
You too, Vinny, and stay on the ground level.
No promise. I like the view up there.
I cast him pretty much from that self-tape because he had this natural charisma as a person that the character needed. So once Nick was kind of set in stone, I started to look for older Vincents to match him. We ended up finding Bob Adrian, who has an amazing resume. He played Bill Wilkins in The Conjuring 2.
I think I'd like to go now. I can't.
Why not?
I was super excited to work with him and get to know him, and he was an absolute pleasure to work with. He had so much knowledge of the industry that, especially to me as a young director, just every conversation with him felt so valuable. John was definitely the most difficult part to cast because in terms of character development, John goes through the most. Where he starts and where he ends is the largest character arc of the film. So I was looking for somebody who can handle that in a very real way. We cast Michael Benini, and I noticed right from his self-tape, he has a talent for a subtlety to his acting, which is exactly what I was looking for, because the last thing I wanted was John's arc to come off as over the top or too much in any way. So when an actor can read between the lines like that and convey what I'm going for, I think that's what made John's character work so well and hold the movie together. Elena was also very difficult to cast, and because she has a smaller role, you run the risk with a character like that of her feeling like a plot device to help John get to where he's going. That's why it was very important for me to have her moment alone. I wanted you to feel like she had her own relationship with Vincent. She wasn't just a nurse that was popping in and out doing her job. She built a relationship with Vincent and also John. Becky Granger sent her self-tape in, and she was exactly what I was looking for. Becky brought this genuine feeling to the character where an audience never questions her support for Vincent as well as John. When she's packing up Vincent's clothing after his accident, that to me separates her from the character who's interested in John to the character who's truly cares about Vincent and truly cares about John as a person, not in a romantic way. And that's what establishes to me in the script that she's been this person for him all along. He just hasn't seen it yet because it hasn't been the right time. The last part that we cast was Jamie Leo as Virginia. This character needed a presence about her. She doesn't have any dialogue, so I needed the audience to just feel the same way Vincent felt when he first saw her. Based on her real past work and just enthusiasm to be part of the project, Jamie was the obvious choice. She's able to captivate an audience in those scenes visually and make that love at first sight moment between her and Vincent believable. I wanted to come off strong with the period piece aspect of this film right off the bat. So I wrote a scene that opens with a 1950s New York street full of vintage cars and pedestrians. I had a lot of conversations with my DP and my crew on how we would achieve this scene, and I had versions of it based on how many cars we were able to get. I had a version where there was one car in the background and that would just limit our angles, but we could pull it off. And then there was the dream version where I had 5 cars and we'd have no problem. Up until the day we were shooting, I was going back and forth a lot with my cousin Dom Figueredo, who owns 2 vintage cars. And a friend of his, Stan Rivera, is the president of the Corvette Society, which is a Long Island-based car group. I remember the last conversation I had the day before we were shooting was them telling me we're gonna do the best we can. We're gonna get you as many cars as we can. And I said, I appreciate it. Whatever you can do, I'll make work. The first few cars pulled up and I thought, this is amazing. That's more than enough. And then they just kept coming. I remember just taking a minute to be present in that moment because this was my script about my grandfather, something that already means so much to me, and to have all of these people come together and make that possible, that was an amazing thing to be a part of. I will never take that moment for granted. I'm like, the crew of this movie felt like it was made up of pillars, all there to support this thing that we were building. David Marino came in pretty early on as my DP, and we had a lot of conversations just about how the movie would look and feel. Distinguishing the 1950s and the modern day half harshly with visuals was very important to me. I wanted the 50s to feel more welcoming with warmer tones, and for modern day to feel a little more dreary and colder. And then the scene in hospice would be where the color tones start to clash, to give this melancholy kind of end of one chapter but beginning of another kind of feeling. We did this through photography but also production design. I worked with Jordan Kramer, who's an amazing production designer, and she had a very difficult task of balancing the 2 halves of the movie. It was almost like doing production design for 2 different films because of how different I wanted them. So the 2 of them, David and Jordan, just the way any scene can start and you know exactly where you are based on how it looks and feels is exactly what I was going for. Emily Cohen was the first AD on this film, and she also got involved super early. She came to every production meeting. She was on the location scouts, and she ended up turning what should have been like a 6 to 7 day shoot with the amount of movement that we had and the amount of different locations into a 3-day shoot that went so smoothly. It would not have operated the way it did without her. But the foundation of our building was Mary Glenn Frederick, who was the most amazing producer anyone could ever ask for. I remember the first conversation we had was not about logistics. It wasn't about how we were going to pull off any of the things that I wrote. It was just getting to know me and getting to know my mindset writing this film and the truth behind it and the stories that came along with it. And I remember leaving that conversation feeling like this person truly cares about what I'm trying to do here. And even though this is the most important story to me and it's so personal to me, I can trust it in this person's hands. And I'm so glad I did.
Cut. That's it.
And that's a wrap on Glass Ball.
I can honestly say that the process from start to finish was one of the greatest experiences of my life. All of these creative minds coming together to work on something, you can feel something amazing being created. It's tangible on set. And aside from the final product being something that I'm so proud of, the experience of being on that set and working with these people reminded me of why I'm in this industry in the first place, because it's so much fun to collaborate.
Settle and action. Cut.
That was sick.
In the end, the ultimate goal was not only to share my grandfather's story, but to share the message of that story. So whether you walk away relating to John or Vincent or Virginia or Elena, I want people to leave the movie feeling validated, feeling like they're not alone, feeling like they can see themselves in this character. In a lot of ways, it's a comforting movie to me, where it's sad but not a tragedy, and it's a fairy tale, but it's based on the truth. So it's literally both ends of the spectrum telling you that anything is possible, life is so complicated, and no matter what path you find yourself on, it's gonna work out in the end.